Hey, everybody, it's usual, Candid Frank. Usually Aaron's here. He's lost his voice for the last couple of days, and pressed into service is Griff Bordignon. And Griff is a fella that both David and I, as you know, we do a CFL show, works with us with the Argos and the Canadian Football League. Won't be going to the Grey Cup this year, but he's contemplating doing it later. He's also writing for 3 Down Nation, which doesn't really talk about hockey, but just about, and the name of your show and where they can find it.
Yeah, so available on all podcast platforms and YouTube, YWC Football Talk, NFL, CFL, even a little NCAA football whenever we get the chance. 2 new episodes coming out both tonight, NFL show coming up right after this, and then I have my CFL show a little later on, just, really deep diving into the true chaos that is going to be week 21 of the CFL season. That's YWC Football Talk. Celebrated 400 episodes last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we're going to be here and we're going to talk about an exciting situation that has not been seen for 32 years. And that, of course, is the Toronto Blue Jays have won their way into the World Series. I'll start by saying this. When the Jays went into the playoffs, my 2 hopes were, and some people who, it wasn't really as much a fan of the Blue Jays, but a fan of a circumstance on behalf of the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
I wanted to see them play the Yanks. And I wanted to see them play the Dodgers. Now, that saying that people say once in a while, careful what you wish for, kind of comes into play here. The Yankees were a team that, we had a good chance as fans and viewers of baseball to see that the Jays had a good shot against them. They, not that they were dominating the Yankees, but they were able to beat them when it mattered, right to the very end when they finally took first place, and also that home field advantage, which came in as an advantage against the Yankees. And then in turn, I think a big advantage against Seattle. They continue that advantage because LA, as good as they are and as preeminent as they are, and predictably the best team in baseball is what people say, or the best team money can buy in baseball. That's who they're up against. And it begins on Friday. First of all, Griff, baseball and how it fits in your life.
So baseball and me kind of have a weird relationship where, I really bought in. I don't know if you remember the 2013 team that well. That acquired Jose Reyes, acquired R.A. Dickey, Mark Burley, etc. 18 to 19-year-old me really bought into that team. And I'll be honest, we went to over 20 games that year. Just like any chance I got, I was down at the ballpark. And that team flamed out miserably. And I kept it going, just going to games that they kept getting less and less. And the 2015 happened. I was there for game 5 when the bat flip occurred. I was there for game 3 of the ALCS as well. And then basically since 2016, which I also could say I was at the Donaldson walk-off game, baseball's been a bit of a rocky relationship, just because, there's been moments of glory. There's been moments of just this team doesn't have it. They're winning 60, 70 games a year. It's not fun. And then 2021 came around and they barely missed the playoffs. 2022, we all know what happened against Seattle. 23, they didn't do anything. And then last year was kind of like, a down year. So you get to 2025, there's no expectations. I've gone to a handful of games, but it's that sweep of the Yankees right around Canada Day that really flipped the switch in me of this team's getting hot at the right time. Because I always say with baseball, because how, with us in the CFL, season doesn't start till Labor Day, even though there are some colleagues of mine at 3 Down Nation who disagree with that statement. With baseball, you can play a bad April. You can have a bad May. You're playing good baseball July going into August and September. There's nothing like it. And that's what the Jays have done. They've rode the momentum of wave. It's been up and down. I know they almost coughed up the division lead, but they locked in when they had to. And that's been the reason why I think this team has a chance. Sure, the Dodgers are a super team. Sure, the Dodgers are loaded 1 through 9 in the pitching staff. There's nothing more vulnerable, and I say this about expectations for this year. I was more than happy beating the Yankees, just because we all know that's the opposite of what your show is. We're on the other side of the Leafs getting the loss. ALCS, I was like, hey, we're here. It's great. But then eventually, when they won it all, I'm like, it's like the dopamine rush of give me more. To where now, if they go out there and lose to the Dodgers in 4 or 5 games, is what it is. You know what? we got to experience something as Blue Jays fans that in my lifetime I have never seen. I was 2 months away from being born the last time they were this far in the playoffs. I had said that Monday night was the biggest game I was been alive for as a Blue Jays fan. They go out there and win. This team will be remembered forever, but I still think that there is going to be palpable buzz because next year's their 50th year. I don't think people realize that yet because I don't really think they've announced much, but how cool would it be going into your 50th season of existence, raising a World Series banner?
That's a lot to drill. That's a lot of drilling down, and I'm going to see how much of it I can remember and comment. No worries. It's great. When you talk about the special nature of this season, true, very special. But here, out of everything you said, this is the one thing I want to drill down on, and that is the surprise factor that the Blue Jays are this year. And let's look at it from a macro view and look at Toronto and championships, right?
Yeah.
There hasn't been, I won't say, I think I can say this, and we follow the Argos, and a lot of people don't know anything about the Argos, but what I can say, and I can say it in total seriousness, I don't think any of the last few Argo championships were predictable in training camp. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I can't really comment on any of the ones before 2024 just because obviously I wasn't too involved with the team as I am now. But basically, that's what makes this year special because, like, when the Raptors went on their run, they were expected to be there.
Absolutely.
2017, 2018. Obviously, when they won it in 2019, the expectation was get to the NBA Finals.
But nobody really knew that they'd get there because they made a DeRozan trade that a lot of people were on the curb saying, not sure you made a good move there. Why would you trade the greatest player? And many felt DeRozan was the best all-around player that the Raptors ever produced. And they Masai Ujiri traded him. And I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, sure. Every team at training camp or at the beginning of the season, they dream about having the chance to get to the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
But the reality, and you touched on the fact that we talk about Labor Day. You and I agree. I think David does too. That the season doesn't really begin till Labor Day. When we watched the Argos win, you'll just have to believe me because it's not in your recollection bank. What I will say is this: the Argos can be a good team, but a lot of good teams don't win championships. So they were a good team, but the way they ended up making it through, what I can tell you is, and I think this, beating Winnipeg in the Grey Cup was no small feat, and they did it twice. Okay, so those two victories alone that you may know a little bit about, you'll know that they were the underdog, and that's what we're talking about here. This is what we're talking about here in Toronto. The thing that Toronto fans have had over the past decade and a bit is that they're teams that win championships. They're few. They're not many. The Raptors won. They went on that road, and I remember how it wasn't just how they won, which was awesome. It was the fact that they did win. How they won was as amazing as how they won, like the bouncing ball in the hoop, the triple bounce, and then in the basket, right? That stuff is stuff of legends. And what's legendary more than anything is that they were up against Golden State. Griff, there's no way they were not the odds-on favorite to beat Golden State. And what happened with Golden State? They got a couple of injuries. The Raptors played as well as they could possibly play. And I'll say that circumstances worked to their advantage. The reason I say this right now is not that I'm saying the Dodgers are going to have injuries. But what I am going to say is, I know we talk about football, that saying in football, on any given day. I will up it to in any given series. There are teams that can win that you don't think have the right to.
So that's my thing too with this whole thing is like this team, because it was basically, I say they weren't expected because 74 wins is just not acceptable in Major League Baseball. And this year there was like barely anything done in the offseason to improve. The biggest acquisition was Santander, who's obviously done for the postseason. But it's the fact that this team makes you believe when you're ready to throw in the towel. They basically give you a reason to fight. Down 2-0 to Seattle, going back to Seattle, they very well could have packed it in and just, ridden the curve. They win game 4. They win game 3 and 4, excuse me. Game 5. Now, look, it's a footnote no one's going to remember. No one, even if they lose the World Series, no one's going to remember the blunder of putting in Brendan Little for game 5. It's kind of like the Nick Nurse had something similar happen to him in that NBA Finals in game 5, which the Raptors could have won, but he called a really bad timeout with like 3 minutes to go. But see, we don't remember it because they won. This series is really going to come down to, more than anything, I think, is the Jays bats coming to life, because if the Jays bats can get to the Dodgers starters that have been unstoppable, they can win, because I'm confident in the Blue Jays pitching. Look, Shane Bieber had a bad game 7, but we've seen what he can do. Trey Savage was a monster in game 6. Gosman, great in the ALCS, even though he came up with, I believe, a loss and a non-decision. Mad Max, look, turned the clock around. It was great. So this team can give it to you any which way. It's just really about, for me, they're the why not us. It's like the Argos in 24, and even I know I've done my research going back to 22. It's the why not us. It's the Montreal Alouettes of 2 years ago, Frank.
Yep.
No one expects you to be here. There's a belief within that room that they can do it. And honestly, I think there's a really big world where the Dodgers, too, have not faced competition to where, or not faced competition, but haven't they faced adversity to where when you're good and you face adversity, it can be harder to come back when you face adversity, because the Blue Jays have been there down 2-0, down 3-2. Hell, the game ALDS game 3, when they blew the lead against the Yankees, there's a very good chance that the Yankees could come back, but obviously the Jays locked in for game 4 and won it. I don't know if they're going to win, but I really, really, really think there's a lot of people sleeping on the Blue Jays, but even if they win, there's still going to be people making excuses, and for some reason, there's a lot of people online who like to troll the Blue Jays and just root against them for fun, but I don't know why you do that. Enjoy this run, because things like this in baseball, especially for us, they don't come around all that often. I had to wait 32 years for this moment, and I'm not going to let anything ruin it for me.
There are two things that work against the Toronto Blue Jays, and two big things. One, they're Canadian. Mm-hmm. 2, they're Canadian. Those are the two things they've got going against them. Why do I say 2? Because none of the Americans want the Canadian team to win. And you know, want to hear the real sad part of this? There are a lot of people in Canada that don't want Toronto to win. There are a lot of people that still resent the fact that the Expos do no longer exist. There are a lot of Expo fans that are still bitter that they're gone, and the Jays are the team that remained in Major League Baseball. And of course, there's the Toronto haters. As I said, disadvantage, they're Canadian and they're Canadian. But here's the thing about that, is that the people that are for them are so enthralled with the team and so supportive. And the players can feel the fact that they don't just have a city on their side. They have a country on their side. And that's quite the thing. That's quite the thing that, to pump into your legs when you're trying to do something, right? And the contrast is, are there two teams in Major League Baseball that are adored historically more than the Yankees and the Dodgers?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I can't stand the Yankees, not because of the team, but because of the because it's the fan effect. It's like,
but you understand my question, right?
Oh, yeah.
As far as popularity goes, those are the two most popular teams.
Because there's so many people who will wear the NY cap because of its significance and not know what it has to do.
Right.
There is one Canadian brand, though, that I think got to not that level, but near that level, and that was the We the North movement that the Raptors still
absolutely
hold to this day. But because you see people too wearing the LA hats. Like I'll say this too. Like I own some random baseball hats. I own a Dodgers hat. I don't know why. I just always have. Dodgers have been a team. They've never given me a reason to not like them. Like the Yankees, they've given me reasons not to not like them. But the Dodgers, I've never had a problem with. Hell, even if they come in, they're expected to be here. That's just the thing I look at it at. But with Toronto, though, and the Canadian advantage, I feel like we witnessed it worse in 2015 with the not wanting the Canadian to be there. Spam call. With 2015, with them not wanting to be there because of everything that went down. This time, I haven't felt that same, biases within America. Like, even with the Fox broadcast crew, like Joe Davis has done a really good job. His call for Game 7 on the Springer home run was beautiful, to where it doesn't seem like that anti-Canadian hatred anymore, especially from the broadcasting crew and then as well Major League Baseball. So would they love it for the Dodgers to repeat? Absolutely, because at the end of the day, that's one of their golden gooses. But There's something about if the team from Canada won a World Series. I know for Seattle it sucks. I've seen a lot of their fans be in misery because they've
Oh,
never reached a World Series, but there's a lot of Blue Jays fans who, because that's the thing with losing in the playoffs, especially if you're not the Dodgers or the Yankees, you don't know when you're going to be back here. Look at the Red Sox, look at the Mets, look at any other popular team, the Cubs, for example. Hell, even the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cincinnati Reds. I know people say, oh, why those teams? Because they've been around forever. There's only a certain handful of teams that do this consistently. And you know what? The Blue Jays, hopefully they can keep it consistent. My only worry was always looking at going forward, would they jack up the prices to price people out? I don't think so. But I do think those like premium tickets and like tickets, you know, where like the dugouts are now and how behind home plate, it's like very exclusive to get there.
$1,700.
Those are I think it's like $17,000 to get into the World
17,000.
Series.
Oh,
But those seats, I feel like will be in price. So I feel like the Jays are going to follow that Raptors mantra where, yeah, tickets may go up a little bit, but they're not going to price out the average fan because they know if they do that, they're going to see a significant decline in attendance.
Okay, and here's the thing about the support that Canada has from the U.S. I think has political effect.
Yep.
The Canada has been on America's radar, on the full American radar, because of the president and his comments about the 51st state, and even dropping into this thing where when the Jays made the playoffs for playing the Yankees, he said there should be an investigation as to why there's a Canadian team playing in Major League Baseball. My point is that we have a decent relationship with Americans. And I'm not saying that as an American, not knowing what's going on across the border. I can hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
And I think there's this knee-jerk reaction from the average American who knows Canada, knows Canadians, and is kind of tugging for them a little bit because I don't want to use the term they feel sorry for us, but they know we're good people, and they're saying, you know what, I'm okay. Wouldn't it be funny if Canada won the World Series and you know, Trump said, no, you're not coming here. They wouldn't go there anyway. Every time a North American League team won, they've gone to the Canadian capital, which is Ottawa. So there was never a talk of that. And to finish my thought, I would love the fact that if they win, I'd love to see them go, and I'd like to see them go into the prime ministers wherever they bring them and have an American flag and a Canadian flag. Being a hockey fan, if you know anything about minor hockey, every minor hockey team has an American and a Canadian flag. Whenever they go and compete in the U.S., there's this camaraderie between the Canadian and the American hockey players. I think baseball's going to get that, and I hope if they win, I hope the prime minister in his office invite the fact that we want to thank these immigrants from America for winning this championship. That's my bottom line.
Oh, we love it. We love it. Yeah, no. I do think that they would pay a visit to Mark Carney if they were to win the World Series. That's not a doubt in my mind. But I was thinking about just like, you know, one underrated storyline going into these, especially the home games, because we've seen a lot of the ALDCS who's been throwing out the first pitches. You know, a lot of like guys from the 15, 16 teams. I'm starting to think that for games 1 and 2, you have to roll out the guys, which obviously there's one exception for obvious reasons, that you bring back the guys who won you in 92 and 93. Like if it's anyone but Joe Carter for game, it's got to be Joe Carter for game 1. I think you throw out like even like a Cito Gaston, Paul Molitor, someone of that like elk to come back and do it, because there's a difference between, you know, the 15 and 16 teams are special. But you bring back the 92 and 93 guys, it's like, hey, we're the guys who won. We want to pass the torch on to you guys to win. So I feel like
absolutely
that's just what you got. That's just what I think you got to do and what's going to happen. But also, the one thing I've always said about Major League Baseball is they have their primetime games, which you never see the Jays go on. I know you can say, oh, Apple TV or like the random, I think they have the Sunday games that are like noon sometimes. I'm talking about like having a prime game on Fox or like, you know, Sunday Night Baseball. I think you're going to see more of the Jays in those like prime spots down south. I don't think it'll be that many, but if they win, you can't not do it. It's kind of like with the Raptors on Christmas. I know they did it to basically say, oh, we have to include you now, but you know what? Force them to make you acceptable. Major League Baseball's hand to say, hey, when you're scheduling the upcoming season, which I already know the schedule is out, but the times are still up in the air, give us the American eyeballs. Have the ESPN crews come up here. Maybe, hell, one thing I know has been rumored now, especially with the stadium rentals being done, maybe it gets an all-star game back to Toronto, first time since 1991. Took 32 years to get the World Series back. We're at 34 since an all-star game. So I think there's a lot of expansion for this. And then also, too, the fact that you're going to see a minor baseball bump in Canada, I think, because there's a lot of kids that are going to be impressionable watching this team. It's kind of like with basketball and the Raptors. Excuse me.
This is a situation, I'll call it chicken and egg.
Yep.
The reason, is it because they won't draw, or is the reason they don't draw because they don't show them? At the end of the day, a championship does raise the profile of the team. And as a broadcaster, part of the excitement is having certain teams, like next year, you're going to have New York and Toronto on the big stage. No matter what happens against LA, you're going to have LA and Toronto on the big stage, because this is the World Series, and the playoff matches. Here they go again. Let's revisit that. Right, we get a chance for their revenge. That kind of stuff. It all makes good television. So I agree with you that the Canadian concept here is something that the Americans. For me, it's less about them wanting to respect Canada. It's the individual fans just don't have the appetite for it. But if the Jays win, then that raises a little interest from the other side. I agree with you, but for a different reason, because then fans are going to come out and go beat the crap out of those damn Canadians, right? I'm coming out because I want to see you guys beat them. So yeah, there's always, whatever a fan's jam is, the leagues have to identify that. We talk about it in the Canadian Football League. Sometimes they don't seem to be able to figure out how to drive the interest up. Now, again, this is another chicken and egg thing. Is the interest high enough to make it happen? But the fact is, the NFL, Major League Baseball's driving the most numbers it's had in years. The popularity of the game is without question. It's gotten very popular. It did subside a little bit. The rule changes have had a lot to do with it, because they've shrunk the games into a more, this millennium, time that people have to pay attention to games. They have to be a little more compact. They've succeeded in that goal, and they've made it kind of interesting for even the fans that didn't abandon them. Because at first you're going, well, a pitch clock? Like what the heck's a pitch? What do you mean a pitch clock?
You got robo-umps coming next year.
Yeah. And then, now you have the robot umpires coming. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the kind of stuff that keeps the game fresh. And I think what also keeps the game fresh after 32 years, it's an international game. And I think a lot of American fans can kind of get into that, at least as far as curiosity is concerned.
Yeah, I just think, too, they kind of want to say, like, oh, hey, here's the Blue Jays. Because the Blue Jays are also, too, a very well-traveled team. Obviously, look, when they go to Detroit, when they go to Seattle, pack the barns. Like, we saw it even during the ALCS. Like, I even think if Detroit had made it, there's a chance that stadium's overrun with Blue Jays fans.
Absolutely.
But the other thing, too, with the Blue Jays is just the fact that, everyone goes to a game. You don't even have to like baseball. There's people I've been to games with in the past who everyone just goes. You have a good time. That, like, I know we always make the joke, like, the people that go to sit up at the 500 levels get blasted and get a tan on a nice sunny afternoon day. They're still there. They're still driving. I don't think they're going to have a problem selling tickets next year, because they'll always worry is, like, it's not so much because the Jays know, like, hey, June, July, August, we're fine to sell tickets. It's that April. It's those crummy April nights when the weather's still bad and you have to go inside the dome. Next year, they're probably going to be packed, because I already know the schedule for next year. The Athletics are the opening series. Then they play the Colorado Rockies. But the Los Angeles Dodgers come to town in mid-April next year. You're not telling me right now that regardless of this World Series, that stadium's going to be packed with 40,000 people, because either they get to boo the Dodgers because it's the here come the evil Dodgers, or it's, hey, we're the ones who beat you, and now you got to stare up at our World Series banner.
That's right.
There's such, like, the storylines that are going to come from this game are just, like, not one in a million, but, like, just, all I ask for this team to do is just give us some moments and give us some hope that you can get there. Like, I'll be honest with you, when they won the DS, I was like, great. Also, because I have some friends that are Yankees fans that, like, were giving it to me before the series, I got to return the favor. ALCS, you know what? Hey, if they had lost game 6 or 7, I still would have been said, hey, it's a very successful season. Now, go win the damn thing. That's literally all I can say. Go win the thing. You know what? You have 4 games. You have 7 games. All you have to do is win 4 of them.
If you're a Blue Jay fan, the fact you're seeing Seattle in the playoffs is got a little bit nerve-wracking because, that's the team that took them out before, right? When you were talking about the games and how the Jays are going to win, I want to add something to what you were saying because I agree 100% that Dodgers have great pitching. I think the Jays have great pitching as well. I think the key for the Jays is, like you said, their hitters have to hit the pitchers. The strength that the Jays have in hitting could lead to the weakness that the Dodgers have, and that is relief pitching. So if the Jays can hit the starters and force the Dodgers to get in to their bullpen, the strength of the Blue Jays 46 times this year. Well, I'll say 45 times during the regular season, and one very important time they won a game coming from behind. And part of the reason why they can come from behind is they have good hitters that wear out the pitching staff. They have long at bats and force the bullpen to come in. And in a series, the bullpen coming in heavy affects the whole series. So, that and what we got here is we got a 7-game series. If the Jays can get into that bullpen a couple of times, and maybe, just maybe, they'll be playing in their strength. So I agree with what you said, but I also want to add that as my opinion that the Jays need to hit well enough to get into the Dodgers' weak bullpen. And I'm dying to see what Bichette does. If he comes in and plays, is he ready game 1? Is he DH? Does Springer go to right field? What are your views on how important Bichette is to play in this game?
Well, we're going to have to see first if he is active throughout the series. I feel like we'll get more of an inkling tomorrow because obviously game 1 goes Friday night. If he comes back, it's just basically, gasoline on the fire. That's all it is. The other point I'll make about the hitting too is just the fact that you saw it against Seattle where if Toronto can't hit, that starting pitching will go 7-8 innings. We saw the Dodgers do it against Milwaukee in the NLCS. Blake Snell, I think, went 8. Yamamoto pitched a complete game. They also have Shohei Ohtani. They also have Tyler Glass now. They have Clayton Kershaw, who would love to go out winning back-to-back World Series again. He is going to be a Hall of Famer one day. That's no doubt in my mind. But you made the excellent point. You get to their starting pitching and you make them have to go to the bullpen. The Blue Jays aren't, sure, they could get blown out in the game. It very well could happen. They're going to make the Dodgers work for everything they get, though. They're going to make the Dodgers, if the Dodgers pitching is solid and just kills them, the Blue Jays aren't going to go down swinging. We know that. We know they don't swing and miss often. They don't go chasing balls. So my main point with that is just if hitting can stay alive and just make them work and get the runs, don't even go for the long ball because that's the big thing that the 2015-16 team would do consistently. Just get the ball and play.
That's why they need Bichette. Now, some have suggested the downside on bringing Bichette in is that there are 2 guys that get called to play. One of them isn't going to play, and the combination of them is really good defensively. Mm-hmm. So, there is that as well. And you've got players who've been on a run. You've got a team. I don't know. Some people are suggesting, well, this is the team that got us to where we are. We shouldn't bring Bichette in. But I just can't see how you have a guy who led the league in hits not be good enough to play on your team in the World Series. I just don't see how that doesn't jive for me.
That's it too. But also on that note, by the way, they led Major League Baseball in comeback. Their 45 wins was the 45. leading. That was the leading for Major League Baseball. Yeah, I just don't see how you leave them off. But here's the other thing too: who comes out of the lineup? That's the other big question.
That's the debate that's furious right now because the one thing we can talk about Junior being the player that he is. He earned that LCDS, most valuable player. He earned that, and they've got players. This is a team that is defined as the goal, the necessity to win a championship in any sport. It's not that you don't win without your stars, but you don't win with your stars alone. You need the guys in the trenches. You need the guys that pick up the stars. And that's the difference between championship teams and teams that you expect to win, but don't.
The other thing, too, is just the fact that Blue Jays, like everyone's saying, like, oh, how'd they beat Seattle? Seattle's 7 through 9 hitting barely did anything in the series. If Seattle won because their superstars beat the Blue Jays, look at Game 5, who had the big home run to tie the game, Cal Raleigh. Game 1, it was Cal Raleigh. Game 7, before anything else got it, before the Springer home run, it was Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez. If the Blue Jays, basically, I view it the same way as like you view football. Like, say, for example, like the Rough Riders. You know AJ Ouellette's going to get handed the rock a bunch. Because if you sell out to beat him, they're going to beat you in the air. You do it to where you make them one-dimensional. That's how you beat the Dodgers. It's the same thing, too. You know Freddie Freeman's going to hit. You know Mookie Betts is going to hit. Neutralize the Kike Hernandez's, Tommy Edmonds, like all the other players. Like, you know, like even Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani goes yard. You know it's probably going to happen. The man hit 3 home runs in a game-clinching sweep of the Brewers, for Christ's sake. Let those guys do their things. You shake it off. Don't get beat by the bottom of the lineup. You know, those guys that come in, those like guys, even too, hell, don't let Teoscar Hernandez beat you, for as much as it pains me to say that, as someone who's a fan of his with the Blue Jays. Don't let those caliber of players beat you. If you get beat because their stars were their stars, that's one thing. If you get beat by the young son hero, that's what left such a sour taste in the mouth of Yankees fans and Mariners fans. The fact that, you know, Andres Jimenez came alive. The fact that Ernie Clement, Addison Barger, Nathan Lucas, who's batting second, all those guys are having clutch moments. And then obviously even too, everyone likes to remember the Springer home run, but it was Kiner Falefa who started the rally to get the 3 runs. So
absolutely, that hit. To your point, to accentuate that point, in Game 7, what I insisted should happen in that Game 7, all I kept saying to my friends, don't walk anybody. Don't walk anybody. Don't walk anybody. The only reason I said don't walk anybody is because I knew who was up 4th.
Yep.
Right? And to your point, because you're 100% right, it's what your 7, 8, 9 hitters do to bring up your 1, 2, and 3 hitters. If they don't get you there, and that's what happened. You were talking about not letting Freeman and company beat you. Don't let their players beat you. You don't let them get up to bat either. So at the end of the day, this is going to be a series, I think, more than anything, that the only concern I have, and again, it's going to be the same situation. The strikeout to walk ratio has to be heavily strikeout over walk. Because the Jays, if they walk players, you know, it's one thing to have a 1-run home run. But you know what the Jays, the trip to the World Series, the 3-run home run. I could see Earl Weaver, someone you may not know, spinning in his grave, former Baltimore manager, who kept saying that he wasn't satisfied with a home run. He needed to have guys on base. The Baltimore Orioles, the championship Baltimore Orioles, lived on the 3-run home run. And I saw it there, and all I could think about was Earl Weaver when I saw that 3-run home run.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, and also too, every single Blue Jays key home run in the postseason has been a 3-run home run. Joe Carter, Batista, Encarnacion, now Springer. You know, just get the runs when you can.
Get on base.
Get on base. That's why I'm saying it. Don't have to go for the long ball. Get on base. Let the pitching do its thing. But even like on the other thing, the bullpen decisions are going to come down to it. John Schneider can't afford to get cute either. But get on base.
I'll call it get loyal.
Yeah.
Because he gets loyal to a fault.
Yeah, but he can't experiment. Like there's for as much as the Brandon Little thing's a non-story now, you can't take guys like that onto the World Series roster. You gotta use Chris Bassett more often. If Jose Barrios is healthy, that's another player that I don't think people have realized. Use him. Use the guys that are going to get you there. Game 7, that was beautiful bullpen management. Oh. Hey, you needed 2 great innings in the 7th and the 8th. Kevin Gausman's going. Chris Bassett's going. Jeff Hoffman comes in for the 9th inning to slam the door shut. Jeff Hoffman's a guy who's finding his groove at the right time, and I think that's very scary. For as good as Blake Trinan is for the Dodgers, Jeff Hoffman as well, if the Jays need to lock the door, he will lock the door.
Yeah, they've got – listen, you got to go. You got another podcast to do.
Yes, sir.
Listen, I appreciate you coming here, Griff. The CFL season didn't end the way we'd hoped. And when I say we hoped, we cover the Toronto Argonauts. I want to make this clear. We were hoping they'd be relevant because in all, I'll go with the Morgan Riley thing. You're jealous a little bit because they're getting there. The only jealousy I have about the other CFL teams that are moving on is their reporters get to call something really important. And that's the selfish thread that I have. That at the end of the day, that's all it is.
But here's the thing, though. Here's how I look at a glass half full approach to that. Next Saturday in a potential Game 7, we'd be potentially at BMO Field or watching from home, and then Game 7's looming. Next Saturday, if it gets to Game 7, that's the only thing on our minds.
Absolutely. That's all that will matter.
And the Argos being on the bye week, too. Nothing to worry about this weekend.
Yeah, they're out for the season. If and when we go to the Grey Cup, we'll be able to meet up with them, speak to the coach and other people, and see what they're thinking about the end of the season. Unfortunately, the next day they bailed out, and you and I couldn't get there. We were both disappointed about that, but there's not any blame here with the Argos. What player wants to hang around any longer than they have to when there's nothing they're getting ready for except for next year?
The U-Haul doors were slammed shut.
That's it. Thanks for doing this, buddy.
No problem. Anytime, Frank.
This is Griff Bourdignon. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching Maple Leaf Talk, and we'll see how the Jays do on Friday and Saturday. Well, we know where our support lies. We can do it because it's a Canadian thing. Elbows up, baby. Next time.